I wanna make sure you understand the seriousness of flushing, because you might say, oh, they ran the water for a little bit, what's the big deal? Actually, the EPA says it's a big deal, because in 2015, there was an EPA official, Miguel del Toro, and he found out that the city of Flint, not the state, but city of Flint, who was overseeing the testing at that time, they were pre-flushing. She referenced it earlier. Pre-flushing is when you basically flush the lines the night before, the morning test. It's not, the EPA doesn't outlaw that, but they basically frown upon it. But pre-flushing, he actually said in an email that was discovered through a Freedom of Information request, he said this is bordering criminal negligence. Because pre-flushing, you're basically, he said, and I quote, they're flushing away the evidence. That was pre-flushing. So we found flushing the day of, which is right before the test. So if the EPA, behind closed doors, I mean, he got reprimanded, but behind closed doors is basically saying, this is criminal negligence, they're flushing away the evidence of lead by doing it the night before, what would you call doing it right before you take the sample? Then that's homicide, because you're literally, there were officials that went in, flushed people's lines with single mothers standing there with their kids. We just interviewed a 34-year-old with thyroid cancer. I want to be clear, I don't know what caused her cancer. We're not doctors. I can't draw cause and effect. Was it the water or whatever it was? I can tell you she was not sick before 2014 other than a cold. You know, we're all human. She never had a serious health problem. April 2014, they switched to this toxic water. They didn't treat the water correctly. All of a sudden, 6 months later, she starts getting thyroid complications. She starts getting massive migraines. She starts getting heart palpitations. Then they find spots on her kidney. We just interviewed her. She's housebound. She's 35. She's housebound. She can't work. She still has heart palpitations. And she just got kicked off her health insurance because in America, her husband makes too much for her to get health insurance, apparently, or her to get Medicaid or whatever it is. So she stopped treatment. She stopped treatment because she can't pay the $13,000 deductible. So again, I'm not saying what caused what because we don't know. But I will tell you this, she emphatically said a Michigan Department of Environmental Quality official came to her home, said, I'm here to test your water, ran her water for at least a minute, and then took the sample. Then told her, this is how you're going to do it when you sample. And that's what she did several times. Your thoughts?
Well, when they cheat on the test and then look at you and your children in the face and say, your water's fine, go ahead and use it, filters are just an option. Really, because you know what I don't do when I get up in the morning, when I want to fill a glass of water, or my little kid gets up and wants to drink a glass of water, they don't sit there and run the water for a few minutes, 15 minutes before then filling a glass. No, you are supposed to test the water the way you would use it. Get up in the first morning, you know, first thing in the morning, fill a glass or a coffee pot, you just fill it right up, you don't let it run first. And so the fact that they are completely violating what the lead and copper rule sets forth to find worst case scenarios and to give an accurate test is unbelievable. And then they turn around and tell you to tell your kids, it's fine. You can use the water, it's perfectly fine. Or you get that piece of paper in the mail that says that it was non-detect or whatever. That's a false sense of security, and people are going to drink it because, yes, in Flint, we want this to be over. We don't want to be on bottled water the rest of our lives. We don't want filters the rest of our lives. We want to have the water that we pay the highest rates in the United States for to be safe. So if you get a piece of paper in the mail that the state Department of Environmental Quality, the people you're supposed to be able to trust, says it's safe, but because they doctored the test, it's not, you don't know if it is or not, you're putting your family in jeopardy. And once again, that was the biggest issue I had, is they lied, they covered it up, and I was not able to properly protect my children. As a mother, you took that right away from me because I trusted you. And they were supposed to be, that's all they talk about, is rebuilding trust, rebuilding trust. What's it gonna take for you to trust us? Well, how about not cheating on the tests?
Let me ask you, if this was all a confusion, if this was all 31 residents just being confused, who came in their home, who tested, how they tested, wouldn't the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality be able to easily answer me if they sent officials to this person's house? If they did, can you give me their names? I haven't gotten an answer. I've asked 5 times. You have quite a lot of experience with these folks in the environmental agencies and the government. Seems to be a track record of them lying. We have the Department of Environmental Quality has been caught throwing out high tests. This is the same environmental agency that literally lied to the EPA in 2015 and said, yeah, we're adding the proper corrosion control chemicals into the Flint River. They weren't, and that's why the lead crisis happened in the first place. So it's kind of like, this is kind of like somebody burns down your house and then you give the arsonist the bricks to build your next house. It seems like the actual testing to make sure that lead levels were improved here, that was put in the hands of the very people who told you there was no problem for 18 months and knowingly hid the problem.
Absolutely, and that was one of the things, is that they just keep pushing trust. They keep saying, oh, this is just, you're just traumatized. You need to trust us. We're doing everything right. And people, because yes, we are traumatized and we want this to be over, fine. You know, we figured you got in trouble. Right now, there's ongoing criminal trials happening for the people doctoring the numbers and throwing out high tests and doing the pre-flushing. Those people are being hit with criminal charges. This is way worse because it is straight cheating, no gray area, black and white, straight cheating. And so, yeah, we need an investigation, obviously. This is criminal, but okay, fine. But they're convincing everybody in the world, oh, well, Flint's just never going to trust us because they just want something for free. So it's changing that narrative from us being victims to us just being greedy and we don't know what we're talking about. We're just confused. That's all that it is. We're undereducated. We're poor. What do we know? That's all it is. They're switching, and if people need to step back and look at this, we're no longer the victims in people's eyes. There's other cities that have worse. Wrong. There are other people that have this. How many people have died in these other cities? How many miscarriages? What was the miscarriage rate increase? 490% increase in miscarriages in Flint. I mean, we have all this information out there, and we have good reason to not trust these people. But yet they're looking at us saying, well, why don't you trust them? You should. I mean, they're the officials. They're the ones that stepped in, and they're the ones helping. And look at everything the state's done. You just aren't happy with anything because you're just greedy. So they've slowly changed the narrative, and you can see it in comments. People attack us like crazy, and we're just sitting here saying, no, our water is still messed up from the tests that haven't been doctored, and from the skin rashes you still get in the shower, or the other health problems, all these other things going on. We're saying we still need help, and they're just saying, no, because look, the state's testing is saying that it's fine. You guys are just overreacting.
And I just want to add, so I'm not saying this to pat ourselves at all, but I think one of the biggest problems is the government can do these scandalous things. The government can lie. The government can go into people's homes, knowingly test the wrong way, and then say it's all good, if they know there's no journalists to actually hold them accountable. You could speak better than I. I've been here 13 times. The events I go to, the media here is basically in the back taking selfies with each other. They're basically tweeting. I mean, I saw somebody at this Judge Mathis town hall the other night. He did a little, report before it started, and then he left from one of the local outlets. So basically, every story I read from the media here is regurgitating the governor and like exactly what they say. Literally, it took me maybe 20 minutes to read the first report that they put out, that the lead levels were improving, and find all these inconsistencies and find all these things that didn't make any sense. Literally, you take a journalism class, the first thing they say in journalism class, if it's like a real journalism class, is, go knock on doors. Well, we knocked on doors. We found dozens of homes where officials came in and out in the open, they didn't expect anyone to follow up, knowingly tested the wrong way. So you have a governor who's leaving office in 2 months. You have the governor's election in a few days from now. What happens next? It seems to me that, we just published this story. Obviously, we published it right before the midterm elections, so everybody's attention is on that. But we've had 2 congressmen right now call for an investigation. Congressman Ro Khanna, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, the woman who destroyed America, Susan Sarandon, she's responsible for Trump. She has spoken about this. Other people are talking about this. What should happen? Because it seems to me it takes a lot to get to the Michigan media to actually listen to the residents. That seems to be a problem here. It takes a lot to get the Michigan media to actually go out and investigate what the state is saying. In April, when the governor shut these pods down and said the data is showing this, they didn't look into it. So I know what you want to happen, what needs to happen, because it seems to me, if we had the funding to come back here and knock on every single door that was on that program, I would venture to think at least half were done the wrong way. Do they need to do citywide retesting? Do they need to reopen the water pods? Do they need to pay an airlift everybody out of Flint to an island? I mean, what would you like to see happen?
Well, and this is just going off of the past day with Flint residents completely blowing up about this, which most people, the thing is, the sad part is our shocked faces were like this. Not shocked.
I get that a lot, like, we knew.
Yeah, of course, but nobody listens to us. Thankfully, you guys did. But yeah, nobody listens. Everybody wants to talk about Trump and his tweets and all this and Russia and all this stuff. I'm like, hey, we're right here, and I need people to wake up. We need people to listen to Flint, one, so we can get help, but also it's going to happen to you too. If it's allowed to happen to us right here in front of your face, what makes you think it's not going to happen to you? It will, and it already has in other cities, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse, and people are going to be surprised, and we're going to be like, no, we told you, we warned you. But that aside, what we need here is we need truly independent, meaning not connected with the state at all, in any way, shape, or form, independent, citywide testing across the board, retesting, everything needs to be tossed out because, yeah, as soon as you question a data set, you have to toss it out. Not a scientist, but hey, I took some classes, and that's also common sense. Needs to be tossed. And then we need to have all of the bottled water sites actually and delivery for the homebound and seniors and the people that are ill. They need to be restored because we have no way of knowing what is actually happening in this water, and that I think is the scariest thing of all. You tell me if I have, a few hundred parts per billion of lead in my water, I'm not going to be scared about that. Tell me you don't know or they can't know, that's horrifying. That's scary. So there needs to be complete retesting that is completely independent of any government or agency whatsoever, or any kind of research institution that's made any money from the state of Michigan or any of this stuff. Just needs to be completely reset and start from scratch. Bottled water needs to be restored, and honestly, everybody who has done research says that it will needs to be restored until we need to have bottled water until all the pipes are replaced, and that's in the homes, in the streets, and in the mains, anything that's damaged and destroyed. So of course, testing can proper testing can pinpoint that as well, but that also needs to be redone, and there needs to be an investigation because if people are getting hit with criminal charges for pre-flushing in the gray area of the lead and copper rule, straight flushing, straight violation, black and white violation, lying to people to their faces, putting them in danger, there needs to be an investigation, and it needs to not stop just because it's the low-level people. It needs to go all the way up to the people who said the buck stops here and put the responsibility on their shoulders.
That was my final question. Everybody wants to talk about Trump, but, misery and injustice didn't start on January 20th, 2017. Rick Snyder, whether you're Republican or Democrat, most common sense people don't believe he didn't know what was going on here. Putting that aside, it's his environmental agency that did this. Do you think there's a plausible way he didn't know that they were doing it this way? Do you think, even if he didn't know, do you think shouldn't he be following how they're doing it, what kind of testing they're doing? I know that the lieutenant governor for some photo ops came into homes in Flint, and he went around with the Department of Environmental Quality and plumbers to a couple homes to make it look like they were doing something. I have one record on the record telling me that flushing was going on in her home with the lieutenant governor right there. In fairness to him, I'm not saying he orchestrated it. He might not even know that was not supposed to be. Most politicians are stupid. But the point is, do we have a justice system or we do not have a justice system? Because this governor presided over the poisoning, and it seems like if this story doesn't get seen more, are we to believe he didn't know that they were testing the wrong way?
In 2016, when he pretended to be surprised this was all going on and that all these people had died from Legionnaires and bacterial pneumonia, he said he was going to be hands-on, he was sorry, the buck stops with him, and he was going to make sure of it. And actually, Obama, when he came to visit Flint, said that my scientists are telling me that the water is getting better, and if I find out they lied, well, guess what? We got scientists that are lying and cheating on the tests. So there's no way that the governor can be like, oh, I didn't know yet again. Oops, didn't know. And no, you cannot plead stupidity. And also, you're in charge of something. And if you aren't hands-on, aren't checking in, aren't following through with complaints, which they haven't been, obviously.
Well, that's what one of the statements they gave me was, the statement he made that the water was restored was based on the best information given to him at the time.
And yet Flint residents are the confused people? No, we ask questions. We ask, well, what's the basis behind this? You're saying it's safe, but what is behind this? How's the testing being done? How's this? How's that? We ask questions, and yet we're the confused ones. He just takes it as it is and goes, well, you know what? That's negligent. If you're just not going to ask questions, especially from the agency that already got caught lying and cheating before, that actually caused the crisis, you're not going to question them. You're just going to take it as it is. Wow, that's negligent and doesn't matter. Still under your charge. This is your state. You know, his administration, Snyder's Republican administration, decided to take over Flint in 2011. Every single answer, every single decision fell upon him, his emergency managers, and the Treasurer's office. So you know what? It's your responsibility. You decided to take away local control. You're the one that decided to make all the decisions for us. So you should be the one that pays for what happens, good or bad.
I lied. In its simplest form, Erin Brockovich called this cheating.
That's what it is. It's cheating. And it's cheating, and it's a way to get out of paying for what you broke. And that's that.
Thank you. We'll stay on this. Obviously, we will put the story under the video if you haven't read it. It's a long story, but it's pretty damn thorough. We spoke with 140 people. So share this story, get it out there. And also, I always say this, she said it, don't think because it's not in your community yet, it ain't coming. Every morning, I type in water contamination on Google. I press news. There's 3 or 4 news stories. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So definitely share this video, get it out to more people, because this is, frankly, an environmental scandal for them to basically cook up data to artificially lower. And we're getting kicked out. Peace.